Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor, 911truther.org. Today is April 13th of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters, located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland, is going to green light a full-scale um, Chinese, Iranian, or Russian military offensive targeting multiple cities, countries, territories, and or continents on the date of April 17th of 2026, specifically to spawn a second global biological pandemic and or trigger World War III. The date of April 17th of 2026 coincidentally marks the 107th day of the year. So not only does the date of April 17th contain the number 17, but it's also the 17th day of the year, which is called reflective numerology. And that is because the number 17 equates to letter Q, as in coup d'etat, because this is essentially an overthrowing, a coup d'etat of the world order, the current world order. And that is why Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, when he was in China a few weeks ago, was talking about a new world order, because this is the attack that the CIA has been planning for years now, is basically to stage a false flag Chinese, Iranian, or Russian naval offensive targeting multiple locations on this particular date. And of course, before I get into the numerology regarding this impending event, it's imperative to note that this impending attack, although there is I would give it a 2% chance that there could be a real world military offensive targeting multiple continents by China, Iran, or Russia. This is like 98%, 99% sure that it's going to be a false flag by the shadow fleet of the Israeli Navy. So, unbeknownst to most of humanity, the Israeli Navy is possibly the largest in the world. And this is because they are the recipient of multiple aircraft carriers, ships, and submarines of both the United States Navy and the Royal Navy of England. And so when the United States or England decommissions a ship, they are granted in secret to Israel. So they are allegedly scrapped. They're taken to a scrap yard. But in reality, they are repainted, and because the CIA controls the radar, the satellites, they are essentially able to operate with impunity and invisibility around the world. They also are the admitted recipients of German-made Dolphin-class submarines, and so these submarines are present as we speak in all theaters of war, believe it or not. And so they have the ability to launch a naval bombardment, an aerial offensive, under the guise of being a Chinese, Iranian, or Russian submarine or ship. And that is exactly what they plan to do on April 17th. And in order to foreshadow this notion, the CIA has staged these three countries coming together and practicing this very, very attack on multiple locations. But before I get into that, I just want to also highlight that the Israeli Navy is also the recipient of the prototypes of new weapons, naval weapons, ships, and submarines that are being built by Russia, by the United States, and by Britain in their respective military-industrial complexes. So they have essentially state-of-the-art weaponry, plus some weaponry that has been, and ships and submarines and equipment that is a few years outdated, that is obviously upgraded, plus their own navy. So with this combination, they have a massive fleet, which I call the shadow fleet. So the most recent iteration of these three nations practicing this impending attack was back on January 9th through the 16th of 2026 during Operation Will for Peace, which was executed off the coast of South Africa by the Chinese Navy, the Iranian Navy, and the Russian Navy back on and the date of April 17th marks exactly 91 days since this event transpired. And of course, the number 19 or 91 equates to the letter S, which is an acronym for Switzerland, which is the entity which is organizing this massive event on April 17th. Also, the date of April 17th marks exactly 1,546 days since the CIA staged Operation Chiru 22 in the Indian Ocean with the Chinese Navy, the Iranian Navy, and the Russian Navy back on January 22nd of 2022. Also, the date of April 17th marks exactly 2,299 days since the CIA staged the joint naval exercise between the Chinese Navy, the Iranian Navy, and the Russian Navy in the Indian Ocean back on December 31st of 2019. And of course, the number 2299, because the number 29 is essentially it's reflective of the day that Benjamin Netanyahu came into prime ministership in Israel back on December 29th of 2022. And so both of these numbers are reflected in this particular numerology, which suggests that this is in fact going to be executed by the Israeli Navy. Also, the date of April 17th marks exactly 2,499 days since Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and then Iranian President Hassan Rouhani met on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Beijing, China back on June 14th of 2019. And this was specifically designed to photograph these three men together. And you can see in the photographs, if you look them up online, they're like whispering to each other, and it makes it look like they're like colluding for some sort of plot. And that is exactly what they're trying to sell. And so this impending event, of course, is when it transpires in reality, it's going to likely start in the Asian Pacific theater of war. So it would likely be on the 16th in the United States and the 17th in Asia. And it's going to cascade around the globe. And this is because they want to make it as an appearance as if this is a coordinated attack by multiple nation states. So this is going to be a Pearl Harbor-like event, likely targeting United States Air Force or United States Armed Forces related entities from all the way from Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Singapore, possibly even down to New Zealand and Australia. And then as it goes around through the Indian Ocean and into the Arabian Sea, then it'll start hitting U.S. bases in Qatar, in the UAE, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Egypt, Turkey, etc. So this is going to be it's going to appear coordinated. And that is because it is in fact coordinated, because this is going to be a shadow strike by a shadow fleet. And of course, this is going to likely spawn a second global biological pandemic, or of course is going to be declared as an act of war, and of course World War III will likely ensue. Despite denials by China, Iran, and Russia, the Zionist propaganda media is going to spin this as a brazen attack targeting all these various countries that are going to be hit in the process. And so this has been, I've been blogging about this, making videos about this particular scenario for roughly a year. And so I believe that this is what is planned for the date of April 17th. As previously mentioned, metropolitan cities and U.S. bases will likely be struck in Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, in the Asia-Pacific theater of war, in North America, the United States, Canada, possibly Cuba, Venezuela, Argentina, or Brazil, and in the European theater, England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and in the Middle East theater, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Israel, Kuwait, UAE, Yemen, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon will likely be struck. It's likely going to start off with an alleged cyber attack. So this is how they're going to sell it, is that they're going to claim that China or Iran or Russia was able to hack NATO satellites, and this will allow an attack to transpire without giving a warning to the Allied forces that this attack was coming. So this is basically how they're going to sell it. So it'll likely start with a cyber attack, and they'll likely do a blackout at the same time, so that it appears that the electrical grid went down, so it should sell it more. And then it'll likely feature a escalating wave of suicide drone bombing attacks, ballistic missile strikes, cruise missile strikes, drone strikes, possibly mining attacks, rocket attacks, torpedo strikes, underwater drone strikes, EMP attacks, and ship sinking. And it's likely going to feature the mass deployment of blood agents, nerve agents, choking agents, or blister agents. So they want really horrific pictures of U.S. servicemen and women just dying, basically, because they want to sell this war, and so there's going to be horrific in nature, and so we're likely going to see chemical warfare that hasn't been used since the First World War be deployed in this attack, because this is the Israelis, and they are brutal, they are ruthless, and they are sinking in the polls as fast as anybody has ever seen a country's reputation. They've dropped like 40 points in the United States with both Democrats and Republicans. The whole world is turning against them, and so the best thing that they can do right now is to just lash out and attack as many countries as possible, and then try to sell it off publicly, because they control the media, they control Hollywood, they control the entire media propaganda machine, and that they're going to try to get everyone to buy the notion that it was China, Iran, and Russia, when in reality it's them, as it always is, trying to start World War III. So obviously, if this comes to fruition in reality, I would kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Peace.